Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk with Ashley and Locke. I just had camera difficulties. Oh man. Hey Hannah.
Hello.
Hey.
Had a little bit of a false alarm there.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I was trying to get on and I was like, oh wow, this is a great view of her desk. I wonder if she knows that that we can't see her.
No, like I knew that and I was like, why is this not working for me? Um,
The phone or like the brain?
Both.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one of those mornings, I think.
Yeah. So that was that. I couldn't get it to turn and then I don't know what happened.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah,
It happens to the best of us.
it
You're
does.
allowed. You're allowed to want to throw your phone across the room. Just blame it on the phone. We know it was you, but if you blame it on the phone, we'll smile and nod and it'll be okay.
Okay. I,
Okay. That was a great way to start. Are you ready?
I don't know. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Okay.
All right.
So you want to start with the quote?
Yes. Okay.
Cool.
It's not the strongest or the smartest or the fastest who always wins, but it's the one who never gives up.
Yeah, I'm swatting at a fly in my face as you're reading to me. We're just off to a great start today. You want to just close the video and start over again? All right, the fly is still flying around. All right. So to me, this is about one of my favorite words, persistence. Uh, I think about a lot of things when this comes up, and maybe it's because sports were so important in my life, or maybe it's a guy thing. I don't know. I think a lot about a couple different examples in sports. Um, most recently is our son playing soccer, and having a conversation with him about when we signed him up for soccer this fall. Um, do you want to do you want to play up a level with kids who are better than you and get better, or do you want to play the way that the teams were being broken up? It was play up a level with older kids or play down a level with younger kids, and like his grade level was being asked to choose which way to go.
Yeah.
And so the conversation was, do you want to play with the kids who are going to be better than you? It's going to make you better, but you're not going to be the best. Or do you want to play with the younger kids where you'll be able to, just kill everybody, destroy everybody, win every game, and be the best player and not really get any better?
Yeah.
Um, and he chose, after thinking about it, he chose to play up a level. And the way it actually shook out was another story, but it makes me think of that because I would be, and I told him this in one of his games. Um, I'm much more proud of my kids when I see them stepping into a difficult situation where they're not the strongest, smartest, fastest person in the group and struggling, but continuing to show up,
Yeah.
continuing to try, continuing to just keep going, not give up. I'm much more proud of that than him or her scoring 7 goals, all 7 goals for his team, them winning 7-0, and him being the best player on the field. I'm way more proud when he's kind of getting his ass kicked,
Yeah.
but still showing up. And he had a game like that where, a bunch of players on his team didn't show up and they didn't get destroyed, but he felt like they were getting destroyed. And he had a number of really good chances to score, and the other goalie was just fantastic. And just, it didn't work out. And he kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And I told him after the game, I'm more proud of you for the way that you showed up in that game and didn't give up than I am I was proud of you the last game when you scored all four of your team's goals. Don't get me wrong, but I'm even more proud now because that is something he's gonna take into being an adult that's gonna help him.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it's a trait in me, which you can put your 2 cents in, whether I know it's a double-edged sword, but this idea of persistence, I'm not gonna give up even when maybe I should.
Yeah.
And that's caused some arguments in our relationship. But I think that to win, you're gonna hit hard times, failures, struggles, or whatever it is, and you have to persist. You have to not give up. It's the quote says, "The one who never gives up is gonna
Yeah.
win."
Yeah.
So if you follow sports at all, you see it all the time. You can have the best talent, most talented team, and they will lose to a team of underdogs who doesn't give up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to put in your 2 cents about how it can be a double-edged sword, or if you want to just let that one pass by.
I mean, you kind of already said that. I looked at it kind of differently. Um, for me, I struggle with consistency with a lot of things, or I've struggled with consistency in the past. And I know that when it comes to doing anything, like building a business, like you have to stay consistent, even when it feels like you're not moving forward, even when it
Yeah,
feels, even with healing, like when you're on a healing journey and you're done, you made so many huge leaps and you can feel yourself growing, and then you have a month where you feel like you took 10 steps back. It's easy to be like F this and like give up, want to give up. But if you stay consistent, like you'll continue to keep growing. You're not doomed because you took 10 steps back. And with a bit, like even like when I was saying growing a business, like if it's not working in 2 weeks, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. You just
yeah,
need you need to stay consistent with it. And I think that's hard for a lot of people because we want instant gratification. We want things to happen now because that's the world we live in. We
yeah,
order something and it comes
yeah,
the next day. Um, so this whole like, I want it to be easy and I want it to be quick is what we live in now. So it's even harder to want to keep trying or even put in some effort um,
yeah.
without something to happen quickly.
I think that's a really good point. I think, that reminds me not to go on and on about 11-year-old soccer. Um, but I'm gonna get a little fired up about this part. Uh, you said it's the world we live in where everybody wants instant gratification. Yeah, it's the Amazon effect. If you want to
Yeah,
blame Amazon, I don't, I mean, I'm not blaming Amazon. Amazon fulfilled a desire and made money doing it. So good for them. But this whole participation trophy thing,
oh man, don't get
like at the end of 11-year-old soccer, everybody gets called up and handed a participation medal thing around their neck. And it's like, I don't want kids to feel like crap, but how are we going to learn to be successful if we don't fail is kind of what we're talking about here. If we don't push through failure, and how are we going to teach our children how to be competitors, how to be strong, how to be persistent
hmm
if they're rewarded for just showing up?
yeah. Well,
And
and to be honest with you, most of the time they don't show up. Those like there's plenty of kids that don't come to practice, don't come to games until like the last couple, and then they get an award for being on a team
yeah,
where they didn't even participate. Like there was no participation. There was
and
like
even if they did, and we don't have to we don't have to go off the track on participation trophies,
yeah, don't get
as
me.
much as it pisses me off. Even if they did show up, like they shouldn't be made to feel like crap for not being the best player.
Yeah,
Like at all. I was a high school coach. I coached 3 different sports in high school. Um, Making players feel like crap is not the way to motivate them, just to be clear.
yeah,
Um, but rewarding them for half-assing stuff, even at 11 years old, is not helping now.
yeah,
And we can just leave it at that.
yeah,
Um, if I show up, if I show up as a terrible parent today, if I half-ass it or if I'm just having a bad day and I'm snapping at my kids left and right, I don't deserve a pat on the back. Like maybe I should have a hug from
Yeah.
you and be
There's
like, all
love.
right, you're having a bad day. I still deserve love, right? But I don't deserve a freaking trophy for
No.
being for half-assing something or for not being good. Like let's just be clear. If I show up horribly today, I should not be congratulated.
Yeah, but you kind of what you just said. It's not about being good. You said if I'm not good, it's not about being good. You don't have to be good to deserve an award. You have to have some effort and try and like
Yes.
be persisting. So what you just said kind of contradicted the other thing
Well,
because
no, I just used the word that you didn't like.
yeah,
The word good, right? I don't deserve a trophy for showing up horribly.
yeah,
If
okay,
you want to say showing up horribly instead of being good, right? Like it's the word. So don't pick apart the word. The message is still the same. But
okay,
let's stop talking about participation trophies because it's just making me mad.
okay.
Um yeah, so the only other thing, since we're from New England, um, the other example of this that I wanted to use, I think everybody in New England, if they know anything about football, knows who Julian Edelman is. And I love Julian Edelman. He was on the Patriots for a long time. He was like short, undrafted. Nobody wanted him on their team. And he ended up, so not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, although he's very smart, not to take away from him. Not the most desired player. Nobody picked him. He had to walk onto a team basically. And he ended up being a Super Bowl MVP and one of the best receivers on the Patriots ever. So that, I mean, he illustrates this point exactly.
Yeah,
Underdog and you don't give up. So I liked how you related it to business, um, which can kind of be related to life too. But we seem to keep, bless you, we have an audience. We seem to keep bumping into this concept of it's easy for us to say something here, in this case, be persistent, don't give up. You don't have to be the strongest and the best. It's another thing to apply it in the moment. So you're
yeah,
talking about business, we can, life, parenting, whatever it is. Um, it's easy to sit around and talk now and say, you don't have to be the smartest, the fastest. Can you stop, please? You don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, the strongest. You just have to keep showing up and keep trying.
yeah.
And it's how do you might not know the answer to this. You might have something to say. I don't know. But I think it's an important question. How do you keep that in mind in the moment when you feel like a failure? When you feel like you just can't keep doing this, right? How do you what can you prepare for those moments? Like, do you have something that you can do? What do you do to not give up?
Hmm. Um, I think it comes with that's a really good question. That's a tough question. I think it comes with wherever you are in your journey, and I think it's different for everybody. I think there's parts of the healing journey, and I don't really have like names of them, but there's parts, and like I think I said this in a I said when you're in the beginning stage of like growing and evolving, um, you don't notice until after. Like, say it's about snapping at one of your kids. You don't notice until after you snapped that you snapped, and sometimes it's not until way after. And then it starts happening right after, and then it starts happening while you're doing it, and then it starts happening before you do it. So there's like different stages. Um, and for myself, I forget the question that you asked. uh,
So how do you prepare yourself for the moments where you feel like we're talking now, you need to persist. So like you mentioned business. So you need to persist. You need to keep showing up because it will work eventually, but if you give up now, it won't.
yeah.
That's easy to say now. In the moment where you feel like, oh man, I tried this and it didn't work,
Hmm.
or I'm not good enough, or whatever it is, how do you keep going? How do you keep persisting? What do you do in the moment? It's easy to say now. How do you do it in the moment? Or do you not? Do you have to prepare? Do you have like a support system? Like, what keeps you from giving up?
I think for myself, I think I've come to a point in my life that given up so many times that it's not an option anymore for me because I know what will happen if I do. And I know that it's unacceptable for me. Like it's become a non-negotiable for me to keep going even when it's really hard because I know that if I don't and I don't stay intentional and consistent and keep trying, that I'm going to be 10 years from now living with a heavy, heavy burden on my shoulder, which
Yeah.
is called regret. And I promised myself, like you hear all these stories of people on their deathbed, and I know that's kind of gory, but people on their deathbed, what's their biggest like takeaway? A lot of them live with so much regret, not having fun, not doing the things they wanted to do,
Yeah.
giving up. And I don't ever want, if I live with that burden and I give up and I don't do what I'm called to do or feel called to do, not only do I live with that and that depression and that uckiness, but everybody around me lives with that too. Like if
Yeah.
I'm pissed off because I didn't do what I wanted to do and I didn't stay consistent, then that, like, sorry, but that shows to you. Like, I'm gonna take that out on you. I'm gonna take that out on our family. Like, they're all gonna know.
Yeah. And that's and you're not taking it out on us because you're a bad person and like you're just going to come lash out at us. We can sense that.
Yeah,
You have a quote on your desk. Do you still have that on your desk?
yeah,
Do you want to read it?
yeah.
I know it off the top of my head, but if you don't, but you read it.
There is no greater burden on a child than a life of a parent.
Yeah. So you went in and out a little bit. There's no greater burden on a child than the unlived life of a parent.
Yeah,
And I think so. Like, I think what you were hitting on a little bit was we can sense when you are quitting and giving up and having that regret. We can sense that sadness.
yeah,
But I also, and I agree, but I also think it's important for kids to see their parents persist.
yeah,
We tell our kids, The Little Engine That Could is a kid's book if you know it. It's a good book for life. It's kind of like Dr. Seuss, some of the Dr. Seuss books. They don't just have to be for kids, but in that the little train is saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And
yeah,
we say that to our kids when I can't open this jar. And I think that was our 4-year-old yesterday. And I looked at her and I said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And she sat there saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, opening it. And then she got it. It's, I will persist until I succeed is another thing we say around the house. They need to see it.
yeah,
They need to see you stuck in the shit
yeah,
and continuing to persist because, how like it's this parenting cliche, do as I say, not as I do. Like it's BS. They need to see us persisting until we succeed or they won't learn it. They're not going to learn it because we say they should. They're going to learn it because we do it.
yeah.
So,
And that's
go
not
ahead.
to say, and I think, and also they learn because we're like taught that, everything is supposed to be easy and everything's supposed to be like happy and great all the time. With that, they see you fall. They see you fall. They see you struggle. And that's okay. Like, I think a lot of people don't want their kids to see them struggle. They see you struggle. They know you're human and they see you persisting and still trying. And I think that's what's huge is letting them know that you struggle, letting them know that
Mm,
it's not going to be easy. Like sometimes most of the time we have to try really hard. And I think that is the bigger picture is telling them over and over and over again, even if you mess up a million times, listen, I'm human. Like I'm growing with you. So
yeah, that was That's an amazing point. I think
Yeah.
that's really, really powerful. And so, you take that back to the original question that I asked you. So when you're struggling, how do you get yourself to not quit? I think that's a fantastic motivation. The kids are always watching, right? If
Hmm.
you're a parent, the kids are always watching, and I think that would obviously there. If let's just say I'm off at work, I work in an office, I'm struggling, my kids aren't watching me there, but like it's still a habit. It's
Yeah.
still something that you're forming so that it's second nature, and they are not like when you are home and the kids are watching, that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Just because the kids aren't watching doesn't mean you're not going to do it right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the other thing I want to add to that question that I asked you, I'll give you my answer.
This is going on for
Um,
a while, so
yeah,
let's
I
move.
know we need to move on, but I think it's important to talk about having a support system.
Yeah.
Um, so I know for us, we act as support for each other when one of us is down. You know, my stubbornness, my persistence, my refusal to give up can a lot of times come and help you, because when you're struggling, you feel that it's A, safe enough to share with me that you're struggling, and B, I think you probably know that I'm going to give you a little bit of well, love to begin with, but also, you can't give up. Here's why.
Hmm.
The same conversation that we're having. And obviously there are times where that me adding that part is not necessary.
It's not
And
helpful.
it's not helpful. Yeah. But there are times where you need to hear it from me. Right.
Hmm.
There are times where, and everybody's allowed to like think about the kids is kind of what we just said. Even in the moment, again, easier said than done.
Hmm.
My kids are watching me. I'm so frustrated. I'm struggling. I don't care if they see me quit right now.
Hmm.
Might like that's not like you're not a horrible person for feeling that way, but if you have a support system, someone that you love and trust, that can hear you vent and then also remind you in a diplomatic way, you have no other choice. You said I have no other choice. Well, you don't a lot of times, and you still want to quit, and sometimes you need to hear me say that, and vice versa.
Yeah.
um, so I think support system is important, having somebody to talk to about this. um, okay. Anything else before we had a question from um, this deck of cards that we have called Actually Curious, that we are going to talk about. Do you have anything else to say before we move on to that?
No.
Okay. You ready for the question? I think I'm asking you.
Yeah.
All right. How do you stay informed, and why do you choose those sources? This is a good question for right now, because we have to be careful what we choose as our sources of news. So how do you stay informed, and why do you choose those sources?
It's gonna sound really crazy.
Well, everybody already knows you're crazy, so fire away.
Um, First of all, I'm very, 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 very intuitive and can sense other people's energy. Um, and if it's negative energy or there's agenda behind it, I can feel that.
Selfish.
Yeah. I don't watch the news. I don't like the news. I've never liked the news in my whole life. Anytime the news has ever been on, like I can think about my early 20s if the news was on. I remember like watching TV and like commercials would come on about the news and I was like, "Holy shit." Like
Somebody else got murdered next door.
they just named like six things that like were completely horrible that happened and like while I understand that is what drives most people to watch it. Like people like drama. The majority of society
Yeah.
like drama, and that's not being mean. That's not me criticizing anyone. That's like stating the truth. Most of the world likes drama. So when they have commercials like that, like breaking news, that is what draws the people in. So like I know why they do it. That being
To make
said,
money.
I've never liked it. It's never felt good to me. And also, it makes it sound like the world is a lot worse than it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not,
It's
it's just glorified. So all these things that are happening have always been happening, but there was no news before to constantly be in your face. Um, and so that being said, um, and this and this speaks for even people that I really, really love, that I, thought were really good people. I've had to stop following because no matter which, and I don't want to get too deep into this, no matter which side you fall under in what's going on in the world, both sides have fear-based
yeah.
news. Um, you call it fear porn. And so a lot of the people that I was listening to, it was a different kind of fear, but they were still instilling fear, and they
They were
still,
they were
it,
doing they were doing what you just said the news does.
yeah, and it was just always negative. And I was like, while I think I should be updated on current events, I don't need anything that's constantly negative chirping in my ear or in my eyes or whatever, because that affects your mental health.
Yeah.
Social media affects your mental health. It has a way of making you think differently, and not in a good way. So, for myself now, I follow people that who do state truth of what's going on in the world, but also bring love into it as well. It's not
Yeah.
all just be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. There are facts, there are truth, there are some not so good stuff, but yet there's also backed up by, hey, there's good coming. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like, I don't know.
I think, yeah, you started off talking about being intuitive, sensing energy. I think that's the big takeaway. So whether it's a person or an organization, a website, a channel, whatever we're talking about, you we need to pay more attention to how it makes us feel
Mm,
and help that, or let that help us decide whether we should be listening and putting that into our body, our minds. You talk about a lot in your coaching. You talk about primary food is actually what we read, what we listen to, the people we're around. You have to be careful what you put into your body, what you eat, right? The same
mm,
way you have to be careful what you put into your mind.
mm,
And so, yeah, I call it fear porn. You can think of it like Chicken Little, who's running around telling everybody the world is going to end. Well, the news has been telling us the world's going to end for, I've been alive for 35 years. The news was always on in my house when I was growing up in the morning. So like, since I was 5, 4, however long I can remember that the news was on, it was always the same.
mm-hmm.
Different stories, but always freak out, freak out, freak out, get
Yep.
scared. And like they're trying to make money, okay. But you need to listen to how something makes you feel. So I heard a good quote, and I think this applies. The quote was talking about reading books. And he said, what people should do, I'm paraphrasing, but what people should do is they should be really open to reading new books. They should try everything that looks good to them,
Mm-hmm.
and then be ruthless in cutting out the ones that don't make them feel good, that they don't like, even after a page or two.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing applies here. If you stumble across a person, a lot of what we're talking about is online, but in person too. If you meet somebody or you find somebody online, or someone sends you a video, pay attention, be attentive to how it makes you feel, because if it makes you feel like crap, even if you believe and agree with what it's saying, if it makes you feel like crap, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about what's going on in the world, and both sides. Well, I mean, first of all, and I know you agree with me on this point, so I'll disagree with what you said, even though I know you agree. There's more than two sides to everything,
Mm,
right? So there's not two sides to what's going on right now. There's 1,000, probably more, right? Because everybody has a different take on it, and it's not as simple as this one thing is either right or wrong. Sometimes it is, but not usually. Um, So regardless, you said regardless of what side you're on, there are people on this side and there are people on this side who are screaming the same panic, 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 the sky is falling message from Chicken Little. And you can say, well, I want to listen to people who agree with what I believe.
Mm,
Great. I think you should be open-minded to other opinions, but if they're clearly not based in fact, then you don't need to continue listening. You can ruthlessly cut them if you're open-minded. But even the people that agree with what you're saying, you can find a thousand people who agree almost to a T with everything you believe, and they can still be horrible for you to listen to. They can be fear porn. That's all they're doing is sucking you down in emotionally, and they're not worth listening to.
yeah.
Um, I think if I can touch on something I call, well, not I call, but a lot of people call confirmation bias, which I just kind of talked about. This idea of seeking out sources of information that agree with what you already believe. Everybody has this confirmation bias. So if you believe, let's take it to something not explosive as an example, like investing. If you believe that the stock market is the best way to invest, let's just say, you're going to seek out information that sources of information that agree with you and
Mm-hmm.
confirm what you already believe. It's just human nature. And so if I believe something else, like the stock market is not the best way to invest, I'm going to go seek out sources of information that agree with that opinion. And we're not going to it's going to be an echo chamber where it's a room full of people who agree with no new opinions. And that's dangerous too.
Yeah.
So I think, we don't need to go deep on that, but confirmation bias does not help you. Sometimes, even if you feel strongly about something going on, like with what's going on in the world today, people feel very, very strongly. That's great. Passion is great, but you still need to rationally and slowly kind of have an open mind to think things through that might not immediately agree with your viewpoint. And and if nothing else, it's just strengthening your conviction that what you think is right when you prove to yourself that the idea you're entertaining is not correct.
Yeah.
But you should still listen to it. And I think there's too much going on right now. There's too many people who refuse to even listen to an opinion that is slightly different than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to hear it. You don't have to agree. You don't have to listen the whole time, 20-minute video, whatever. Give it a chance, then ruthlessly cut out what doesn't fit, what you decide is not true. But we need to be more open-minded.
Yeah.
That fly is back.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not my friend. All right. Did you have something to say?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. So we are, let's see, we will be back next week, next Friday at 8:30 again. We had a time change last week, but next week we'll be on 8:30 again. Thank you for everybody who jumped on this morning to listen, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.